Good evening and welcome to another wonderful show of Hockey on 216, proudly brought to you by Hyundai. Wonderful to have my fellow hosts back in studio this week. Chris and Woodley, always good to have you crossing the Boerewors curtain back to Johannesburg, and thanks for coming through on a Wednesday night. Bridget Key, my partner in crime at SuperSport Schools, and you hosted with us last week. Bridget, always great to have you here back on the show. And last week we told you we'd have a fourth presenter doing Hockey on 216 with us here. Emily McKay, welcome. Really good to have you on board. Emily was at school last year at Durban Girls College, so great to have someone who's got a bit more knowledge about the players and some of what's going on in youth hockey in this country, and we're really looking forward to some of the insights that you can give us in terms of what's going on in schools hockey.
Thanks, Kelvin.
It's been an incredible weekend of hockey, guys, again. Bridget, I think I saw 637 matches on the SuperSport Schools app this weekend, so we really are back into the thick of it on hockey. I mean, as the head of production for SuperSport Schools, that must have kept you very busy over a long weekend. I know you were trying to have a bit of a family holiday at the same time, but you know, a massive amount of matches.
Yeah, it was. It was phenomenal weekend, general in sport, but particularly on the hockey front. You saw everything kicking off. We did have one or two glitches that pop up. This happens in our world, and we always try and make sure that we get it right and look after the customer first and foremost. The sport you care about the most is on SuperSport Schools. So, you know, these things do creep in, makes it challenging, but we look forward to what's coming up as we carry on.
I mean, as you say, you know, the technology that goes into streaming matches, and especially from so many places at the same time. Unfortunately, as you say, we had a bit of a perfect storm on a couple of things in our tech stack. And obviously for that, it's, you know, we're always sorry for the customers, because we know that for a lot of you, as Bridget says, this is the sport you care about most. And for that 45 minutes when it goes down, it's not great. And obviously that's, unfortunately, we have to live with it, and we do our best to, you know, make sure that those sort of redundancies are in place to make sure that doesn't take place. But every now and again, we do get caught out. And connectivity and power are really your biggest challenges, aren't they?
Absolutely. But one of the positives is that all those games that you might have missed live are all still there as VOD, so video on demand, which is the blessing of SuperSport Schools and the app. So,
So a number of big festivals this weekend, guys. I mean, just, you know, that is the hockey story, isn't it? The centre of hockey this week was East London, absolutely, without doubt. It was all happening in East London. Tony Godding out of Selborne, hosted by Selborne. Greg Belling out of Clarendon this weekend, just incredible story. Crinison, Greg Belling, who is Greg? I mean, sometimes we hear these tournaments, but we don't always know their history.
Yeah, Greg, Eastern Cape man, East London man, ran hockey at Clarendon for a long time. Very involved in hockey in South Africa, produced a number of great teams, and towards the end of his coaching career, he was working with the senior ladies team under Giles. So, you know, someone who was a legend of hockey in East London, and fitting that a tournament of this nature, which, you know, is fast becoming one of the top girls' tournaments around, is named after him. I think it's a fitting tribute to Greg.
No, it's wonderful, and I think East London have done such a good job in doing that, haven't they? And
absolutely.
An incredible tournament. I mean, I'm glad to say, as a team last week, we called Renish to be the team to watch this year. So tick for the
I think you called it.
Well, I do like them,
it.
but I think that we got them. I mean, you know, for me, the big thing, Oranje 3-0, I don't think any of us saw that coming. You know, Oranje is always a serious hockey team. To beat them 3-0 might still be the performance of the year. When we look back in August and say, what was the performance of the year? Beating Oranje 3-0, it's got to be right up there right now. A hell of a game against Unisi 3-2. I think one of the tighter games of the tournament. And they beat St. Anne's 5-1. So Chris Gerber and his team, very, very pleased. You came up against them a bit last year.
Yeah, I think Renish did really well last year, obviously winning top 12. And then just now at this recent tournament, I think they've put out a really good performance against those three top hockey schools. So
absolutely.
Yeah, they're definitely going to be one of the teams to beat this year.
Absolutely, and some standout players there. I mean, I know, Bridget, you're very involved in sort of senior under-21 and national hockey. You keep a good eye on what's going on there. Leah Duplessis out of Renish. Looks like a bit of a future star.
Yeah, I spotted her last year at St. Mary's Hockey Fest, and she has just grown from strength to strength. I mean, she really is superb. She carries the ball so well. There's also that other player that also stands out for the Renish side.
Grace Hobbs, I think she was the one that went to the Malaysia Cup last year for the under-17 side. Sarah Ellen Groenewald, also a really standout player there on the right link. Lots of speed, physicality.
Incredible, eh? And I think they're a team to watch. And I mean, as you were saying earlier this evening, still a lot of young players in that, so they're going to be around for a long time, being right at the top of this.
Yeah, absolutely.
On the Eunice's front, Bianca Rees-Gibbs caught the eye from Eunice. The 2 goals that Eunice scored were both from her, so we were very impressed with her as well.
Yeah, Bianca's a standout player. I made reference to it last week. She had a hard year last year. She had a stroke at the end of the year. She's come back strong. She's really training particularly well. So for her, I think starting off the season on that note is just going to make sure that she puts her team right at the top. So team to watch.
A kid with that sort of resilience is always going to be one to watch, aren't they, Chris? I mean, you've coached kids, and children who can come back from hard times are often the ones that are going to come through in the end.
Absolutely, and we find a lot of these types of kids in hockey. I think hockey is that type of sport where people have to show good bounce back ability. You often on the back foot, and fantastic that there's this platform that people can display their talent now.
Absolutely. Bridget, I mean, I know as a hockey coach and as a selector and as a manager, you got a thing for goalkeepers. You always love the fact that teams that have a strong goalkeeper you liked. And I know that one down there at Greg Belling really caught your eye.
Yeah, Mbali Kumalo from Hudson Park. And just an unknown side, Hudson Park, not a top side that you often identify with it, but she had a standout game against Oranje. They held them off right until the very end. Eventually, they did score to go to a 1-0 lead against Hudson Park. But it's such fun to watch goalkeepers really stepping up to the platform, and I think they don't get enough credit. So
absolutely,
watch.
And maybe that's something we'll talk a bit, I think, about goalkeepers as we go through the season and focus on a bit. Clarendon and Collegiate both had really good tournaments again, so they had pretty good results right through the tournament. Any other teams catch your eye from Greg Belling?
So HS Sasselberg. Again, a side that you wouldn't traditionally think of as a hockey side. They're being coached by Jacqueline McLaren, who was an SA Under-21 player, SA squad. She went to Oranje. She has really, really pushed that school into a hockey front. So again, someone to watch. They're going to be coming through the ranks slowly. You'll see them pushing boundaries.
It's always good to be just seeing so much strength in the system, isn't it?
Again, I mean, you're just seeing the growth of the game. You talk about 635 matches over a weekend. I mean,
37.
37. Sorry, let me get that right. Yeah, don't miss the 2. But I mean, it just speaks to the growth. And here's a school who most people wouldn't have heard of, are suddenly making a name for themselves at one of the top festivals around.
And
absolutely.
Sorry to interrupt. Interestingly enough, at the Heronbridge Sports Festival, Tembisa development side played at that hockey tournament, which is really exciting.
Wonderful for the game. Down the road, Tony Godding, it was really the story of the 2 Greys, Grey College, Grey High School, I think dominated at that festival. We saw them, last week we spoke about both those teams. We like the coaching staff. They've got a rich history of hockey. Good to see them coming through and in that tournament.
Yeah, I think that the 2 Greys are always going to be at the top of any festival that they play in. There's a culture of hockey there that's developing. What was interesting for me as well, Kelvin, is to see the 2 St Andrews College and St Andrews School. St Andrews School, who been involved with hockey at some of the top festivals since their inception.
Absolutely.
They obviously have a very good team this year because some of the results would suggest that they're playing really well. And St Andrews College from Makanda, I should say, have produced some incredible results at the start of the season. So also a team to watch.
Wonderful to be seeing that. And as you say, I mean, St Andrews and Bloem produced some really good cricket stuff this year in the SA20, the schools SA20, so really also solid as well. Grey High School off to Holland, so they're going to be missing out on nomads this year. As far as I understand, the constitution of nomads, as long as you're touring overseas, you can skip a tournament. It's allowed. But wonderful to see that they'll be back. But they'll be back for the Hibbert Shield in early May, and really good to see these teams getting out, playing in other parts of the world.
Yeah, I was fortunate enough to do that tour to Europe last year, to Holland. What an amazing experience to see, hockey at a different level, or some of these clubs with 10 Astros and kids from a very young age playing. The hype around some of the sport we have in South Africa, is there for their Premier League hockey. So an incredible experience for boys and girls to see when they go on these tours.
And you're aware, I mean, a few others, I think Sachs also
is
touring.
currently.
Yeah.
They're out there at the moment.
St. Andrews under 16s also going to the Netherlands this year.
That's interesting to see some youngsters out in
Yeah.
that. Do we know much about that team? And I'm sure we'll talk a bit about them later. And
Yeah.
they've just come off a very good tournament win, and we'll be chatting about that. So good to see that.
And then JP are going to Singapore and Malaysia in November.
Oh, that'll always be interesting. That's a nice time of the year to be in that part of the world. So no doubt the boys will certainly be enjoying that at the back end of at the end. And I think one of the Cape sides as well, if I'm not mistaken, and we can, perhaps we'll put a little graphic on to say we were right or wrong. But I think St. Cyprian's are also touring into Europe with a couple of sides, if not currently in the next week or two. So really good to be seeing that. As I said, going into an ad break, we'll be coming back and talking more about some of the wonderful festival action that we've seen this past weekend. It really has been a wonderful start to the hockey season. So much more to come. We're going into what in the boys hockey I think might just be the biggest weekend of the year, and we're going to talk a bit about that later as we see Coastal Cup, Nomads, Founders, a couple of other festivals that are on the play this weekend. So just a massive week for hockey, and leading into that, probably the biggest tournament of the year. If you've won it before, you might know someone who's won it. St. Mary's, Standard Bank St. Mary's coming the following week. So we'll be back with more after this break. As we come back, just trying to finish off in terms of some of this most extraordinary action this last weekend. Specifically with the girls hockey, we saw a wonderful new addition to the calendar, or relatively new addition to the calendar, the Hyundai St. Andrews Girls Under 16 tournament. Wonderful to see, not just the seniors, but actually starting to see the Under 16s and the juniors getting some really good tournaments early on. Often it sort of happens later in the year for them. So wonderful to get those youngsters out early, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. The St. Andrews Festival was so well organized, awesome stalls, nice vibe. I saw some girls singing in the car. One of the Hyundai cars were there. And St. Andrews winning the tournament was awesome to see the hockey they played. A few of the girls there, really strong on the ball there in the midfield. Ricky, Broski. Amy and Inga Janse van Rensburg, also really good there at the back, nice and solid.
I think also what I found fascinating about this tournament, it's 82 games, and it's these youngsters all coming through and learning to play tournament hockey at a fast pace.
Yeah,
so it's slightly different
Just that
style.
time on the Astro, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's shorter games, so
it's a
you
bit shorter,
have to
bit of
play.
that sort of St. Mary style. You've got to get there, you've got to get the goals. When you get the chances, you've got to take those chances. I mean, Emily, you're so right. I was through there on Friday morning, and the stuff, I mean, look at me. The thing I love about festivals is you get there and it's Wurst rolls and there were bacon and egg rolls, and I couldn't what am I going to have? And I was like, it's 10 o'clock, so I went, of course, with the bacon and egg on Friday morning, but just, coffee, bacon and egg, the smell of Wurst, kids having fun. Hyundai had that carpool karaoke. I mean, I saw one stage 12 girls in a car singing their hearts out. The thing was rocking, right? So it's just wonderful in terms of the full atmosphere. And I think congratulations to Lisa Dietlefs, obviously, one of the stalwarts of South African hockey, who's really putting that tournament on. Her and her team did a wonderful job. But to see the parents involved as well, just such a big part of hockey. And you really lean on that whole community, don't you, Chris?
No, you do. And I think for a long time, that's where hockey had its resources, was human resources in parents really rallying around. And I think, it's interesting that those schools are touring the Netherlands. And what I found when we toured there was it's exactly that. A whole community coming together for the good of hockey. We had groups of parents getting together to feed our team and things like that. It reminded me a lot of what South African hockey is about.
Absolutely. And I mean, as an educator, you'd also be pleased to know there was a wonderful marquee with a whole lot of beanbags and lots of kids studying. I was like, what's going on? There's exams coming.
that's just
there were a few with exams coming, and you could see the schools, I think there were about 3 schools you could see who clearly had some big exams this week. So those
we'd
kids
like
were
to believe that they were watching the replays from.
No, they were definitely studying. There was some physics and books and things out there. So it was really wonderful to see and really well organised. But as you said, I mean, always nice. St. Andrews win their home tournament. That's always nice. They had a really good team playing some really good hockey. 4-0 in the final.
4-0 in the final. I mean, Emily, you were there, but they scored all of them on the post, and they were
dominating the game throughout the tournament, throughout the game and throughout the tournament.
Absolutely.
They didn't concede a goal throughout the whole tournament?
Not one goal, 24 goals scored, not
None
one
against.
goal in 7 games.
Amazing.
Well, deserved winners then. Obviously there against St Stithians in the final.
Yep.
Semi-final, some really good semi-finals. St Mary's against St Stithians ended up in a draw, went to a shootout. The team that I was really impressed with when I was there on Friday, I watched quite a bit of Herschel.
Yeah, always good.
I think that semi-final against St Andrews could just as easily have been the final, but another good team. And I saw in the week that the under-14 team also did really well at Rodine, so some really good stuff coming through at Herschel down in the Cape.
Yeah, Herschel doing really well. I commentated one of their games, and wow, the speed on the outsides were amazing. Lots of attacking opportunities. They do need to work on their short corners a little bit. They had a lot of opportunities. I think they played Brescia House. But yeah, definitely need to work on those short corners.
Look, I think it's something, and Chris and I, we like to talk about PCD and PC attack. So such an important part of hockey, both of them, and I think we'll talk more and more about that as the season goes on, won't we?
Absolutely. Like Bridget's passionate about goalkeeping. I think if you've got a good set piece and a good goalkeeper, you can build a team around that. In the modern game with winning PCs, and if you can have better than a 50% conversion rate, you'll be up there as one of the top teams around.
It's irony because I'm passionate about goalkeepers, but one of my best things to do at training is hit at goalkeepers. So it always is fun.
Listen, it's wonderful. But yeah, a wonderful tournament. Really grateful for those youngsters to get out there and play so early in the season. And really, again, congratulations to Lisa Deercliffs and that wonderful team. The Hyundai St Andrews Under-16 tournament, I think, is going to become a mainstay of the season and really important for Under-16 hockey this early on. That's pretty much a lot of the sort of festivals and events that took place. There were various others around the country. Unfortunately, we can never get to all of it. 600 games, we'd still be here come next week talking about them. Quite a few derbies going on in boys hockey last week, mostly in KZN and Gauteng last week. A lot of the other schools, school holidays. Seemed like the Cape schools were either at festivals or weren't playing this weekend. I even saw that in the rugby side. Not a lot of, they clearly take their long weekends quite seriously down there in the Cape. So we saw that. Last Wednesday, for those of you who are watching live on Channel 216, we featured the Michael House Northwood game, a game I thoroughly enjoyed. Bridget gave me a heads up just before it started off, so I managed to capture the whole game. A humdinger, won in the end by Michael House 4-3. Crimson, did you catch much of it?
Yeah, I mean, what stood out for me, and we touched on it a bit last week, you can see that Michael House is certainly playing with structure. They making the most of their opportunities. They're getting the ball into spaces where they're comfortable. And I think they're going to be a tough side to play against. And Northwood are normally up there. I think they would have been a bit surprised by Michael House by conceding 4 goals against Michael House.
I certainly saw that. And I think Northwood often, they're a really good side, as we saw later in the week. But they really struggled against the Michael House press. I could just see them at the back. They just weren't finding that way through. And it was just that structure of Michael House that actually got them home in the end. Also some great saves. You and I have been talking about it a bit this year, about penalty corner defence. Just an unbelievable save. I tuned in pretty early. Well, it was probably towards the back end of the second quarter. Graydon Leslie at the back. He's a first-team cricketer. Short corner. He got out there and he just turned it around the corner. He comes from a big canoeing family in the Free State, actually, in Harry Smith. So first cricketer, first hockey player in the family, and I think he's one of 4 or 5 children.
You always need a good cricketer on the post.
Absolutely. And he pulled off some just a wonderful save, and obviously it's moments like that turn
those are the margins.
A 4-all into a 4-3.
Absolutely.
Other impressive kids, and I know he came across last year. Young Zuma on the right wing for Michael House. Great hands, got a wonderful change of pace. For those of you who haven't yet played my class, that's where they're going to come at you. So, it's going to come down the right.
Yeah, I think again, they compact in defence. They understand how to press, which is good. It's going to be interesting to see them play at Coastal Cup. I think that's going to be a good test for them. And then sides are going to have to be careful on the counter attack, because I think that's where he's going to hurt them.
They move quick, and obviously young Van Meyer there as well, who comes from Gregor Meyer. Father played for South Africa. Mother was a pretty decent hockey player in her time as well. So
Tanith and
so
Grant
some
Van Meyer.
good hockey genes there, and young Mark Green's son, also to see him. So quite a bit of hockey family sort of kids playing in that my class side, which is
back to that community concept that you spoke about.
Yeah. Luke Allen for Northwood, you've seen a bit of him play. Very exciting little ginger. Really impressed with him. He really was a standout for me. On the Northwood side.
We went to primary school together. He's always been a phenomenal sportsman. So yeah, he's really been working hard for that Northwood side.
Yeah, he did really well. Later on in the week, I think it was Friday, DHS Maritzburg College. Maritzburg College went 1-0 up early with a great penalty flick. DHS came back really hard with 2-1 up until I think it was the dying moments of the game. In fact, the game was finished. I think it finished with a penalty corner. Time was up. Maritzburg College scoring for a 2-2 draw, which I think they'll be quite pleased with.
Yes.
Although probably disappointed to be 1-0 up and have to come back like that.
I think Maritzburg College will be pleased with the results at the end of that. DHS, I think it's something they're trying to work hard at, a little bit of consistency. Last year they had an outstanding team, but I think they lost some games that they should never have lost. It seems, if you look at the other result, they then went and beat Michaelhouse 4-1. And if you look at the Michaelhouse Northwood result and you kind of see, that DHS were 3 goals better than Michaelhouse there. There's going to be some interesting derbies in Natal, and this DHS side, I think if they get it right on a day, they'll beat anyone around.
And I think you said last week, probably the toughest league around, 10 schools, every week you come up against it, it's really tough. As Kearsney found out, they came up against what looks to be a very good Hilton College team. We've seen them come out 2-3 times. They've won comfortably so far this season. They're coming to Nomads, a team to watch.
Absolutely, with Damien Kimfley and Devin van der Merwe, 2 established coaches there. I think Devin and Keegan certainly coached together in the under-21 setup. So Keegan at Kearsney, there would have been some needle in that fixture. And I think a lot of analysis would have gone into that game, and I think the Hilton guys would feel like they got one up there on Kearsney. Hilton certainly out the blocks.
Out the blocks really well.
Yeah, 2 weekends, 2 really good results. Good structured team and a team to watch.
Noodles, you mentioned something, sorry to interrupt, was both of them very analytically based.
Yes.
I think that is something that you're going to see a lot of this season, is this analytical side of teams learning each other's ways and plays and adapting to it and using footage from either SuperSport schools or analysing different ways, and they share footage, which is really exciting because it just steps the whole platform up.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Having coached with all those guys and actually coaching Damien Kimfley when he was at school, I realised, that
you're old,
I'm old for starters, but secondly, how passionate, our coaches are about hockey, how much time they're willing to invest in preparing boys properly. I'm not sure our players actually realise how privileged they are to have the coaches they do at school level. Talking to some guys internationally who have gone overseas from South Africa, the schools abroad don't have this.
That level.
They don't have this level of hours going into video analysis, and I think that's why we've seen the standard of hockey, improving. If players can watch themselves play, that like I was talking about earlier, the camera doesn't lie. The old coach would tell you you're doing something wrong and you wouldn't believe him, but go and watch the footage and it's there to see.
Yeah.
And all these teams, Nick Berishon at Michaelhouse, Devin at Hilton, Keegan, JC at Northwood.
Wonderful coaching down there, isn't it?
Coaching.
It's extraordinary. Absolutely. You spoke earlier, that Northwood team, really impressive. Probably very disappointed to go down in that Michaelhouse game. Bounced back at the end of the week away at Papes at Maritzburg College.
Yes.
4-3 win over Maritzburg College. Mark Saunders will be a bit, he's taken a draw and a loss this season. Tough start for him.
Yes.
You in there, but some work to be done.
Yeah, as we've said, there's nowhere to hide in that KZN setup with the teams you're playing against, and just also for Northwood to bounce back after that fixture against Michaelhouse and take on College on Papes, fantastic.
Absolutely, and you talk about bouncing. DHS come from their tour. Michaelhouse coming off the high of beating Northwood, 4-1 down to DHS, so really, really tough.
Yes.
Coming back into Gauteng, also some really good fixtures there.
Yes.
Saturday morning, it was the big JP Cares. JP, for me, I watched a lot of that game, really dominated. They're a good team. We spoke about them last week.
Yeah,
Nomads, I think they're going to probably be the team to beat at Nomads this weekend if we look at it.
Yeah, we spoke about Sia last week and putting out a good JP outfit. I really do think they're going to be the team to beat. Just looking at their flair going forward,
and confidence.
Confidence.
They play with confidence.
So many connections. That was the thing. That every time a man was in trouble, there was another man. And I think that's where Kes, a man would get into trouble, and there wouldn't be someone to lay the ball off to at those crucial moments. And you spoke about connections last week, Chris.
Yeah, I think it's something that is starting to sort of grow in South African hockey. If you look at the way our national team played at the last Olympics, just with that flair going forward, willing to put everything out there. And I think we'll see the teams that are willing to take those risks, obviously playing off a solid base, but take those risks in the opposition half going forward. I think, you put defending teams under pressure, and that's what we want to see.
And that's what we saw JP do, and a good weekend for JP, won the rugby out of nowhere, so JP would be very pleased. And often that's what happens in that derby. The away teams win, the home teams lose, and that's what we saw. Pretoria boys, another good outfit. A 2-0 win over Parktown. Another sort of classic derby in Gauteng taking place. Good, solid hockey. Both teams looking, up for it this year. Yeah,
I think Pretoria boys are always a tough team to play against. So, they'd be happy with the start of their season now. They had a narrow loss to JP in the last bit of the game, going down 1-0. But now bouncing back and beating Parktown 2-0. Good momentum going into Nomads.
Absolutely. The Battle of the Saints, St. Stithians, St. Benedict's, 3-1 to St. Stithians. Relatively comfortable victory. Probably one that we would have expected. What we've seen of St. Stithians, narrowly lost to JP. They really look, again, a good outfit, very well coached.
Parktown last weekend.
Beat Parktown, so another good team.
Yeah, again, I think a team that plays with flair, plays with, willing to play from anywhere on the field. Probably speaks to the coaches at St. Stithians as well. If I'm not mistaken, Miguel de Grassa still coaching there.
Likes to go forward.
Likes to go forward,
forward quickly.
He was always a tough player to coach against because he could turn a game around.
Absolutely.
And I think that it just shows St. Stithians have produced some really good first teams over the last couple of years.
Absolutely. And lastly, St. Albans, St. David's, 1-1 draw. St. Albans sort of seemed to dominate a lot of the play. They'd probably be a bit disappointed, didn't quite get the goals they probably felt they deserved in the game.
Yeah, absolutely. I think they had something like 9 corners, and we spoke about the fact that, you've got to execute. If you take a 50% conversion rate there, the game's a different game. But St. David's
the good
also...
batting of St. David's. They were
absolutely.
They were finalists at the schools. They said winning again.
St. David's really showing their stuff across the board. And I mean, we probably don't want to mention it because it's not a rugby show, but St. David's beating St. Albans on the rugby field, which we'll leave that there for now.
Well, we had to talk about hockey, Calvin.
Absolutely. We won't talk about that. We can edit it out. But,
soon.
Again, just another wonderful weekend of derby hockey. We've got, 20, 30 weeks of that to look forward to. So we're really excited about that. But next up is the big festivals. And after the break, we're going to dig a bit deeper into the big festivals coming this week. We're going into, as we spoke earlier, perhaps the most exciting weekend of hockey, from a festival perspective in boys hockey, outside of maybe the interprovincials, which come along in June, July. This year, Nomads, Founders, the Coastal Cup, amongst others, which, it's really exciting. Bridget, obviously from a SuperSport schools perspective, all live on the app, 29th to the 31st of March.
Yeah, massive. There's some Nomads games that we'll be playing out on Channel 216 and SABC Plus. But everything you can catch live on the SuperSport Schools app. So
absolutely. And Kristen, again, we were chatting earlier on about, some of these wonderful characters in the game and some of these festivals. And, I guess a lot of people get to these festivals now. They don't necessarily know that Founders was started in 1982. It's been around for a long time amongst a group of schools. We don't really know too much about its roots. In fact, we've been trying to ask around this week. And so if there's anyone out there that knows a bit more about it, we'd love to hear from them.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking at the teams that are at Founders, is also going to be a tough tournament, and a diverse group of teams, which is quite nice, from all over the country. And certainly, I suppose Northwood will be the team to watch there, but a number of good fixtures over the Founders weekend. And then, probably the big one that you want to talk about is Nomads.
Well, I think, Nomads, certainly as we're delving into a bit of history tonight, aren't we?
Yes.
Some of us, we're part of that history, I guess, because we're a lot older than the rest of you, Emily. But Nomad had a really interesting roots, and you know a little bit more about it. It started out as sort of 1 and then 2 Ascension festivals. I think the first one of those Ascension festivals started in 1974, and that became Ascension North.
Yes.
And then there was an Ascension South, which was sort of the Free State and the Western Cape schools, and North was the sort of Gauteng, KZN schools.
So North seemed to start in 1974, and then quite a while later, the South one started. But interesting is that Maritzburg College, Pretoria Boys High, JP, Glenwood, and St Andrews School were the first core schools of the Ascension Festival.
Of Ascension Festival. And I think, we talk about the evolution of AstroTurf and various stuff, and when they sort of dropped out was when, I think it was Glenwood and St Andrews didn't have AstroTurfs, and that, what they decided from a Nomad's perspective is when they came together, that you had to have an Astro, to compete because it was better for hockey. And, as we talk about analytics and that today, in that time it was about AstroTurf. I mean, you probably don't remember a time with no AstroTurf.
For some of our younger viewers and members in studio, it's probably what's grass,
Exactly.
No, actually, I did play on grass a few times.
Did you?
When I was about 12. But then, I do remember DHS, they didn't have an Astro, and then they used to come and train at Durban Girls College. So we used to share our Astro with DHS and Morrisdale.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, that's where that Riverside Sports Club has been so great for those schools. Clifton don't have their own Astro either. Them, DHS.
Our Lady of Fatima.
A number of them play out of Riverside.
And that Nomad Sword really formally became Nomads in 2007. But what got together, the two festivals got together. So I think it was sort of the Mike Bechet's, Mornay van Sail,
Des
Donald, the guys who got together from the two Ascension festivals, pulled them together. There was a sort of an interim period. I think it was when the two Greys had their 150th anniversaries, and they sort of hosted the weeks. And in 2007, since then, Nomads, and we've seen 17 years of Nomads since. Bridget.
Yeah, and JP hosting this year, so it's going to be an absolute cracker. There's some phenomenal fixtures, so it's exciting hockey coming our way.
And on the note of that, we often talk on the show about Friday Night Lights as we try to showcase hockey. So Hyundai Friday Night Lights this week, though, Bridge is on Sunday.
Sunday night.
So
that will be...
We've got two really wonderful fixtures on Channel 216. First up is 5:30 on Sunday, which is Sunday the 30th.
Yes.
Hilton College versus Cares.
I'm excited for that game. I think that, although Cares went down 4-2 to JP, they've actually got a really good team this year. And Sharman's a character, and he's not going to go down without a fight. And he'd love to take on Devon and Damien at Hilton.
And Sharman is a Natal boy, so he's going to have that.
He knows what
Natal
it takes.
Blood.
So he'll be out there. So that's the first one at 5:30. And then, the great Maritzburg College, greatest hockey school in the country. I'm sure your uncle and your father have told you that. Well, she's got a father and an uncle who also went there. So the Maritzburg College roots run deep on this side of the table,
My dad
don't they?
actually went to my class, big competition there.
Your uncle. But,
you can't claim everyone.
No, you just claim the good ones. But again, I think going to be a classic encounter, isn't it? Maritzburg College versus JP. It's two of the big hockey schools in South Africa. It's always a big one.
With Mark Saunders being from the Gauteng, it's also going to be a test, I think, for Maritzburg College against a JP side who's shown us that they're going to be very competitive.
And a tough one for Besh to probably sit with as well, having just left JP last year to go back to Maritzburg College, where he originated from, to go, so it's going to be an interesting one.
It is Mike Bechet's Red Army, so we have no doubt where his loyalty lies on this one. So,
but also JP
really
at home,
clashes. Yeah, JP at home, absolutely tough place to play hockey, tough team to play at any stage. Some really other good fixtures that we thought we liked there. DHS versus Paul Roos, you've called out.
So Paul Roos coming to Coastal Cup for the first time. Interestingly enough, that Michael Baker, who's now at Paul Roos as their director of hockey, was one of the staff members involved in starting Coastal Cup. So I think that's the link of them coming to Durban. So sort of homecoming for Michael with his team.
And also coached DHS for many years. Had a 5-year stint there. So.
No, I mean, he's really the guy that resurrected hockey. Let's be honest. DHS hockey was... so down in the dumps, but very close. And Michael just resurrected it. Certainly one of my favourite coaches out there.
He's also one of my favourite coaches. Big coach there in Durban. I think he did a lot for hockey in Durban, especially there at DHS. Really, brought them back to life.
One thing I love about him is you're watching him. He gets to finals. He'll be in tracksuits all week, and when he gets to final, he's suited up. And I have no doubt up against DHS. I think we're going to see him suited up.
Well, that's a challenge to him, eh? So you won't be able to wear anything else.
He comes suited up. My class versus Paul Fillet. We've spoken about Paul Fillet. They're definitely a school on the rise. My class, we've seen her played some good hockey. Another fixture we're looking forward to.
Absolutely. It's very interesting that we've got some Cape schools coming to Durban to play in these in a festival where traditionally there were festivals happen down in the Cape, and
Normally the other way around.
Yes, we're seeing that shift. Looking forward to seeing Paul Filet play. We spoke last week about Wayne Coetzee having gone across to Paul Filet. So, I watched the under-14 team play last year, very competitive. So it looks like their hockey's got a good program
We're
going.
definitely going to be seeing same. So Coastal Cup, it's been another edition. We talk about Founders and Nomads that have a much longer history. Coastal Cup come into play. The competition at all three of these is just extraordinary, isn't it? Going back to Nomads, Grey College versus Pretoria Boys on Saturday. Again, another great fixture that we're looking forward to. Maybe one of the ones to look out for on Saturday.
Yeah, I think two teams that are physical, very good athletes in both teams.
Mateo Visser is one of the top drag flickers. Everyone's
Grey College,
Great college boy. Everyone's putting him right at the top of the pedestal for flicking for South Africa eventually.
Yeah, absolutely.
Brilliant.
And then Jeppe versus Grey College again. I think Grey College have got two big fixtures there back to back, 2 days apart. They're all playing 2 games a day, so it's a really tough tournament format. And you're getting, you don't really get a rest, do you?
No.
I mean, that's tough. Even at your age, when you're young, 2 games a day.
My back starts getting sore after the first game. But yeah, definitely playing 2 games a day, especially in a long game and a long tournament, it's really difficult.
I think it opens the door for upsets, Calvin.
Absolutely.
I think that we see the amount of video analysis and prep that goes in. I've spoken a lot about these 2 games a day festivals, which the second game you can never be as well prepared as you are for the first game.
Or you can have 2 tough games a day before, think you've got an easy one the next morning because you've got a big one in the afternoon, and you're more worrying about the afternoon game, and the morning one sneaks up on you.
Absolutely. There's nowhere to hide at these festivals.
And that's, again, where the coaches need to be in so much control and sort of getting you up as a player, don't they?
Yeah.
Sacks are touring, so we won't be seeing them at any of these festivals. Always such a good outfit. Probably, again, they have been our pick for the team of the year, which is a bit unfortunate. We're not going to see the team that we really think are out there. And so how good Sacks are this year, we know they're good. We're going to have to wait.
Yep.
Founders, also some really good games. Northwood Rondebosch you called, and you really liked that one. What is it about that fixture that's got you excited?
Having been involved with coaching boys from the Western Cape at national level, they always have such good hockey acumen.
Yes.
You never find a Western Cape team that is, just down and out. They understand the game. They play a lot of club hockey down there.
Absolutely.
The boys
They play like men.
They play like
understand
men.
men's hockey,
And Rondebosch, again, will always be a team that will produce a quality outfit, well coached, and we've spoken a lot about Northwood tonight. So again, I think
team we like.
Yeah, two teams that will be well coached, and I'm looking forward to watching that game.
We've also got Uffies versus Kearsney, another really interesting fixture and a tough one. Both of them are right up there. They perhaps haven't had all the best results early on, certainly from a Kearsney perspective, but they'll be bouncing back, won't they?
For sure. I think you'll see the flair and, good structure that Keegan coaches with from Kearsney, and then Uffies will come with the heart, the determination. They're not going to stop. They're going to be physical, and they are a difficult team to break down. They're not going to give you many chances. So it'll be an interesting battle to see who comes out top there.
Absolutely. And one of the other games that really is exciting us from a founder's perspective, and that we're calling as interest, is obviously a little bit of political, well, perhaps not political is the word, but some needle in it is Northwood versus Paulchim. Paul Viljoen, the ex-headmaster of Northwood, now the headmaster at Paulchim. Again, obviously, we probably, if the viewers at home don't realise it, we quite like this Northwood outfit and the way they're playing, so we're expecting some stuff. But Paulchim, it's a rugby school, it's a cricket school, it's got girls hockey, it's got girls netball, it's boys hockey is competitive. I mean, for a school of a boy and girl school, and I think there's only about 800 kids in the school, they just develop the most extraordinary teams, don't they?
Absolutely. I mean, I hope I'm not mistaken, but I think they won the under 14 top schools tournament last year, Paulchim.
They did.
Which is a massive statement when you consider that their under 14 team was in the top 5 schools in the country. And just shows that the pipeline's coming, and traditionally known as a rugby school. I think there's something about playing against the hockey teams from traditional rugby schools. They've had to fight to be where they are to get the recognition. You know, it's the same at Uffie's.
And
the tough to play
I think
against.
they train with a lot more physicality. And
Absolutely.
I know, Max Caldas always used to tell me about coming to watch South African hockey and some of these Afrikaans schools. It's almost like Copper Stump is part of the weekly training on the AstroTurf as well as on the rugby team. And they do just come out that tougher. So really exciting. 29th to 31st of March, 3 or 4 really big festivals from around the country. Sunday the 30th, live on Channel 216.
Yep.
2 massive games of hockey. Hilton College versus Kes, Jeppe versus Maritzburg College. We're just looking forward to just an extraordinary weekend of hockey again. I think your 637 might become 700 matches this weekend, Bridge. So to you and your production team, all the very best. And as we go into an ad break, and we'll be back to sort of close out and talk about what's left for us in the season. One of the things we've been talking about, is all these festivals and events, and obviously in the game of hockey, very expensive for parents and various people, traveling around. They don't come cheaply, putting on these sort of events as schools do, they, Princeton?
Yeah, I mean, I think that what's great is that many of the schools have their own facilities now, so they are making it a little bit more affordable. But the number of sponsors that have come in to help at all these festivals, they've all got headline sponsors, which just make these festivals fun and appealing and a little bit more cost effective. Look at some schools are going to all 3 festivals over the next couple of weeks.
Absolutely.
It gets expensive.
It gets expensive, and obviously, you've got AstroTurfs to finance and maintain and various stuff as schools. So I guess a lot of the money that comes into the game is being put to good use, both from a facilities, but also from getting kids out there playing, paying umpires, paying for medical and all of those sort of things.
I think especially in girls sport, there's a lot of focus on getting sponsors, as we don't get a lot of sponsors nowadays, especially in the hockey setting. But I think Hyundai, at the St. Andrews Festival, they were amazing. I had an interview with the CEO of Hyundai, and he just spoke about community and reaching out to girls sport and just focusing on empowering them and making them feel known.
Absolutely. I mean, it was one of the first tournaments I've been to this year. I thought Hyundai, the activation and what they did and what they brought to the tournament, just in terms of the carpool karaoke and so much fun is so important. And we know that Standard Bank just do such a wonderful job at St. Mary's Festival and a lot of the other festivals that they're involved in. But as you say, you spoke to Gideon Janssen van Rensburg from Hyundai in the week, and it'd be interesting to see and for our viewers of what he had to say about their experience. Hyundai, who've recently come into hockey and specifically into the St. Andrews Girls Under 16 tournament.
Hello, I'm talking to Gideon today. He's the CEO of Hyundai South Africa. What does it mean for Hyundai to sponsor such a prestigious hockey event?
Emily, thanks for having us here. Wonderful for Hyundai to be involved in the St. Andrews Hockey, Squash and Netball Festival. We believe one of our brand values is to be involved in the community, and we encourage all our dealerships to get involved in the local community, get involved with local schools. And that's why we're here. We're out in the community. We believe we're a family brand. We cater for everybody in the family, from the entry-level vehicles for our newly drivers to the luxury vehicles for fathers and mums. And we're a family brand, a family community, and that is one of our values, and that's why we're here at the St. Andrews Festival.
And how does it feel to have your girls playing hockey and having such amazing sponsors like Hyundai sponsoring these events?
So my girls obviously plays hockey at different age levels, maybe not here all the time, but as a father, I believe we got to give back to what we can to schools, and it creates opportunities. One of the initiatives that we got at the St. Andrews Festival is we've partnered with the Pandas Hockey Club in Soweto, and we encourage people to bring their pre-loved hockey gear and come and drop it off, and to make a difference. So we can donate it there, and who knows, maybe some of the future stars and maybe one of the girls that plays at that hockey club can represent South Africa at the next Olympic Games in 2032 in Brisbane.
Thank you very much, Gideon.
Calvin, being involved in a school, and we're seeing a lot more sponsors coming on board now. I think it's got a lot to do with the airtime that school sport's been given, and hockey in particular. Bridget, what was it, 600 and how many games?
37.
637. I mean, for a sponsor, you're going, that's airtime that would not have existed, 2 years ago. And I think that That's why we're seeing a lot more investment in school sport, is because sponsors are getting their value out of it. And at the end of the day, if you're running a business, that's what you want. You want return on investment.
100%, Chris, and obviously from a hockey perspective, that sort of investment coming into the game just strengthens the whole foundation and the roots of the game, doesn't it? Which is just so important for sport in South Africa. You know, whether it be hockey, rugby, netball, whatever it might be. So you know, obviously, you know, long may it last.
And also the fact that, to Emily's point, how, you know, corporates are getting involved not only in the girls' side but in hockey, which is not traditionally a big school sport. You know, your rugby's always been there, but now all of a sudden you're seeing hockey just being elevated with corporate investment.
Absolutely. And talking about that, Standard Bank, who sponsor St Mary's Festival next week, we'll be coming live actually from the St Mary's Festival next Wednesday. So we won't be in studio. We're going to be winging it a bit out there, where it's not as controlled as it is in this environment. But we're looking forward to it. 30 odd teams of girls are going to be arriving. Emily, last year, you know, this week you were probably in a lot of training. You and your Durban girls team, you were the captain last year. You went on to win the St Mary's Festival. I mean, that must have been quite special.
Yeah, definitely. Leading up to the tournament, I think we trained throughout the holiday. We didn't get a break. We trained for like 4 hours a day in the heat in Durban. Yeah, winning that tournament was definitely one of the highlights of my career so far. It's a massive tournament, so well organized. All the parents getting involved and just giving back to the school. Yeah, I think that team is probably one of the most special DGC teams we've produced.
It was a good side.
Yeah, we had a couple SA players. We still have a couple SA players coming up now. Yeah, so we'll see how it goes. But yeah, definitely a lot of pressure on their shoulders coming into
tough
that
act to follow, and that format of 20 minutes, you know, if you get up against it or you go down, you got to really scramble, don't you?
Yeah, no, definitely 20 minutes one way is really hard. You got to score early, get those goals in. Yeah, one goal past you and you're fighting. So I think the format of the tournament is there for a reason, though. So I think that our girls are prepared and fit enough, hopefully.
They played Penryn first game on Thursday morning.
Penryn. Okay, so they're first up. Is that sort of the champions of the team very early?
7:45, bright and early.
When you say 7:45, Bridgie, 60 games on the Astro in a day for 4 days in a row. I mean, it is just, as you can hear, probably one of our favourite tournaments of the year. Again, for us foodies, the chicken Prego roll. You don't want to miss the chicken Prego at St Mary's. The parents' tent there is probably one of the most festive places that you can be. I always joke, if you want to go and see ex-Springbok rugby players, cricketers, internationals, it's just extraordinary who you see at the St Mary's Festival, and we're really looking forward to coming to it from there next week. Again, on the show next week, we're hoping to have Chris Gerber and a couple of his Rhenish girls, talking to them. For those who've been watching our show, it's a team that we're really excited about this year, and we're watching, so it'll be interesting to hear from them what's going on in this early season and where they see it going.
And their first, later in the day on that Thursday, they play St Mary's, so that's always going to be a tough one. You're playing the home side. At home. It's an interesting one.
Absolutely. I mean, one of the things, though, that I think is going to count against the St Mary's home advantage, and I think last year, if I'm right, you lost one game at the tournament.
Yes,
and who was it against?
St Mary's Waverley at home on the Old Girls' Day. So
absolutely. But one of the things is normally it's during the school term, and those kids just come out, from the little ones, the 5-6-year-olds are excited for festival and they scream and shout. So when that St Mary's team plays, you know it's a home tournament, don't you? Yeah. Next week, I think the schools break up on Wednesday, so might help a bit of Rhenish that there won't be that whole big red machine that's making all that noise behind the goals. Or do you think they'll be there anyway?
I think they'll be there. I think every St Mary's parent will delay their holiday for them to be at St Mary's Hockey Festival and Netball Festival. There's no doubt.
So we're really looking forward to that. Across the Yixco Independent Schools Festival being hosted at St Albans, some really top teams coming, top schools that are participating there that same weekend.
Yes, I'm really excited to see Bishops play. You know, Bishops has produced a number of outstanding hockey players over the last couple of years. The Kasim brothers, you know, have come through that system and really making a name for themselves in Europe. And coached by a recently retired
I was going to say full-time coach, no longer player.
Full-time coach.
Yeah, so Ryan Julius coaching there with Kasa Kasim, and I think it's going to be the first time we're going to see Bishops play this season. And Yeah, exciting.
I mean, for us last year, when we sort of were starting out with Friday Night Lights, those clashes of theirs against Sats last season were just memorable matches, weren't they?
I remember watching those matches, but flip those Saks boys, the forwards, SA players, they can score some cracker goals. So definitely when they come back from the Netherlands, they're definitely going to be a team to watch.
Well, the one there, obviously, we spoke about last week, Lita Cry is really going to be one of the standout players, and he has been exciting. Who else is coming to that tournament, Chris?
Yeah, so obviously being the Independent Schools Festival, the number, St Albans hosting it. I stand to be corrected, but I think there is from Trinity House, Rand Park Ridge are going to be there. St Andrews College, if I'm not mistaken, from Grahamstown. So, a number of schools coming up to play that. And looking forward to some tightly contested games there.
Hopefully we'll see that sort of St Andrews. As you said, they've really been a resurgent hockey force this year.
Yes.
Exciting. And St Andrews Bishops, there's always something in that fixture as well. It's a bit like the JP Maritzburg College, St Andrews versus Bishops.
And a good team that has performed well down in the Southern Cape over the last couple of years. Probably, we don't hear a lot of them because school in George, York High School.
Absolutely.
Always coached by Jason Slater, who has been around for a very long time. Actually ran one of the very big hockey festivals way back when, the York Easter Festival, which was, girls teams and boys teams all on grass. Some of the most pristine.
I suppose just wonderful again, just this mix of schools from all over and kids getting together and that. And I mean, I guess we could go on talking about hockey all night. Luckily, we get to do it all again next week. Wonderful having both of you back, Chris and Bridget, in the studio chatting hockey and for everything you do and all the hard work in terms of prepping for this. Emily, it's wonderful to have you in the first show. We're looking forward to you being a feature of the show and to just get that insight from someone of your young years. You do have a different lens on the game, which we really enjoy.
Thanks.
So a wonderful week of hockey that's gone, an extraordinary week of hockey to come. We're really looking forward to it. We'll be on Channel 216 on Sunday night at 5:30 for Hyundai Friday Night Lights. Thank you for being with us. Good night.